Okay, let's just jump right in. We're going to unpack a piece of history today that is, well, it's almost impossible to believe.
It really is.
If you asked a statistician about the odds of one person surviving both atomic bombings, Hiroshima and Nagasaki, they'd probably say the number is just meaningless.
Right. But it happened. And that is the singular, incredible story of Tsutomu Yamaguchi.
We've been digging into the sources on his life, and what's so striking is how one man's journey can just tell the story of the entire nuclear age.
For sure. And we should be clear, there were at least 160 people, the Niju Hibakusha, who were affected by both blasts. But Yamaguchi is the only person the Japanese government officially recognized as surviving both.
He literally walked through the beginning and the end of the atomic war.
It's unbelievable.
And the status being the only one, it almost makes him sound like a myth. But he was a real guy, a marine engineer from Mitsubishi Heavy Industries, born in Nagasaki.
Yeah, and the sources reveal something about his mindset even before the bombs dropped. That is, well, it's pretty dark.
It's shocking, actually.
He was so despondent, so distraught over how the war was going for Japan, that he'd apparently considered an honor killing of his own family with sleeping pills if Japan lost.
Can you imagine being in that headspace? He's already wrestling with these huge existential questions of survival and honor before the world literally explodes around him.
Exactly. It shows you a man who was already at the absolute limit long before he ever saw that flash in the sky.
So let's dial it back. It's August 1945. Yamaguchi is in Hiroshima. He's there on a 3-month business trip for Mitsubishi.
He's all packed. He's with 2 colleagues, Akira Iwanaga and Kuniyoshi Sato, and they're about to leave the city.
They're heading for the train station, and this is where it happens, this tiny little twist of fate.
Or destiny, as he might have called it later. He's almost out of there, but he realizes he's forgotten his Hanko, that little personal identification stamp.
So he has to turn back.
He has to turn back to the shipyard to get it. And that one small, mundane act just changes the entire course of his life.
So on the morning of August 6th at 8:15 a.m., he's walking toward the docks. He's about 3 kilometers, so just under 2 miles from ground zero.
Which is just far enough not to be vaporized, but close enough for everything else.
He remembered looking up and seeing the B-29, the Enola Gay, and he saw 2 small parachutes dropping.
And then, in his own words, just a great flash in the sky. The blast just picked him up and threw him into a potato patch.
The injuries were, they were immediate and brutal. His eardrums were ruptured. He was temporarily blinded.
And the heat just seared him. Horrific burns all over the left side of his upper body. He was just staggering around, half deaf in this unrecognizable landscape.
And somehow he manages to crawl to an air raid shelter. And in another unbelievable twist, who does he find there?
His 2 colleagues, Iwanaga and Sato, they also survived, all of them seriously injured.
Just imagine that night, sheltering in the ruins of a city that's on fire, with no idea what just happened.
Right. And then, the next day, they have to make the journey back home to Nagasaki. Wounded, in shock, through a country in total chaos.
That's a 120-mile trip.
Yeah. It speaks to this sense of duty that was so ingrained. He finally gets home on August 8th. He's bandaged. He's exhausted.
And this is the part of the story that just breaks your brain. Despite the burns, the ruptured eardrums, being covered in bandages, he reports for work.
On August 9th, the very next day.
At the Mitsubishi office. How is that even possible?
It's just professional obligation over self-preservation. He felt he had to report what he'd seen, even if he didn't understand it himself.
And that puts him in that office at 11 a.m. on August 9th. He's talking to his supervisor, and he's trying to explain the bomb that hit Hiroshima.
You have to picture this conversation. He's describing a single flash, a single bomb, destroying an entire city.
And his supervisor, who literally cannot comprehend this, calls him crazy.
Exactly. He called him crazy for his description. One man is describing the future of war, and the other just thinks he's lost his mind.
And at that exact moment, while he's making his case,
the impossible happens again.
The second bomb, Fat Man, detonates over Nagasaki. And once again, Tsutomu Yamaguchi is almost exactly 3 kilometers from ground zero.
Mid-sentence, physically describing the first trauma as the second one hits.
Wow. He wasn't directly hurt by that second blast. The office building must have shielded him. But the fallout, the cumulative effect was immediate.
His health just crashed. The sources say he couldn't even replace his ruined bandages. He gets a raging fever, continuous vomiting for over a week.
Classic acute radiation sickness.
Textbook. He'd absorbed a dose from 2 separate nuclear events in 3 days.
It's a miracle he survived. But, I mean, it's a miracle that came with a price that would last the rest of his life.
Which brings us to what happened after the war. He actually worked as a translator for a bit for the Allied forces, then went back to Mitsubishi designing oil tankers.
He picked his life back up. He and his wife, Hisako, also a Nagasaki survivor, they had 2 daughters in the 50s.
Right. But he stayed completely silent about the Hiroshima part of his experience for decades. When the government started recognizing survivors, the hibakusha, in 1957, his ID only mentioned Nagasaki.
Why? Why would you keep that quiet?
Well, you have to understand the stigma. There was so much discrimination against the hibakusha. People were afraid of them, afraid they were contagious. It made it hard to get jobs, to get married.
So listing 2 exposures would have made it even worse.
Exactly. It would have compounded the discrimination, not just for him, but for his whole family. So he chose normalcy. He tried to put it behind him.
Which makes his decision to finally speak out, in his 80s, just so much more powerful.
It's a total reversal. He started to feel his survival wasn't just luck, it was destiny. That he was spared for a reason.
To be a witness.
A permanent, living witness. He wrote a book, he started traveling, and became this really vocal advocate for nuclear disarmament.
Yeah, that one quote, "The reason that I hate the atomic bomb is because of what it does to the dignity of human beings." That's such a powerful way to frame it.
It is. And he pleaded, he said, I can't understand why the world cannot understand the agony of the nuclear bombs. How can they keep developing these weapons?
He was using his own body, his own story, as the evidence.
And he wanted to make that evidence official. So in 2009, very late in his life, he applied for and got official government recognition as a survivor of both bombings. The only person ever.
He knew he was running out of time.
Right. He said it himself. He wanted his double radiation exposure to be an official government record so it could, quote, tell the younger generation the horrifying history even after I die. He was preserving his own testimony.
But that horrifying history, it wasn't just his. It was a family trauma, a generational one.
Oh, absolutely. The physical cost was immense. He lost hearing in his left ear from the Hiroshima blast. His daughter remembered him being wrapped in bandages until she was 12 years old.
12, so well into the 1960s.
Yeah. And later in life, he suffered from all the classic radiation-linked illnesses, cataracts, acute leukemia.
And his wife, Hisako.
She was exposed to the black rain, the radioactive fallout in Nagasaki. She died in 2008 of liver and kidney cancer.
And their children.
All 3 of them reported serious lifelong health issues that they were convinced were linked to their parents' radiation exposure. The bomb's shadow extended across generations of their family.
Yamaguchi found out he had terminal stomach cancer in 2009. He died in January 2010 at 93. But his story, it didn't end there.
No, in fact, it sparked this really strange international incident a few months later that in a way proved his entire point.
You're talking about the BBC comedy show QI.
Exactly, a very well-respected show, and they featured him in a segment.
And they called him the unluckiest man in the world. They made jokes, the audience laughed.
They joked if the bomb had, landed on him and bounced off.
Wow.
And in Japan, that caused an uproar. It just showed this total failure to grasp the gravity of what happened.
His daughter, Toshiko Yamasaki, she spoke out, didn't she?
She did. And her quote is just, it's perfect. She said, I cannot forgive the atomic bomb experience being laughed at in Britain, which has nuclear weapons of its own.
That's the whole point right there.
It's the ultimate validation of his life's work. Even after everything, after all his efforts, a nuclear power could still dismiss his entire existence as a joke about bad luck.
So where does that leave us? Tsutomu Yamaguchi was a marine engineer whose life, through just unbelievable circumstance, became the single most powerful human testament against atomic weapons.
And his decision late in life to get that official double recognition, that was about making sure the historical record could never, ever be erased or laughed away. His life became a warning.
And that leaves us with this final thought for you to consider. Yamaguchi's survival was seen by some as the worst possible luck, but he chose to see it as his destiny, a burden to speak for those who couldn't. So what is our responsibility then to carry the specific documented memory of those who survived the unimaginable?